Good morning. You are listening to Blue Collar Tribe Podcast. I am your host, Splash, and let's just start off, get the business out of the way. I'd like to thank my sponsor, Graco. If you aren't using Graco paint sprayers, you are definitely missing out. When you see your nearest retailer, or go to your nearest retailer anytime when you go get your paint, and look at the new battery operated, powered by DeWalt FlexVolt. Absolutely love that. You can get 3 to 4 gallons per charge of your battery. That's unbelievable. So if you're like me and like to use the best that there is when it comes to painting, Graco's your place to go. I am excited for my guest today. I have Nick May from Walls by Design. How are you doing today, Nick?
Doing good. What's up?
Not much, man. Doing good. I appreciate you coming. This is Thanksgiving weekend. I know when we put out for a few weeks, but I know you're busy. I really appreciate and value your time coming on. Nick, for those listeners of mine that don't know who you are, can you give us a little, you have a big background, but give us some background of who Nick is, where you're located, and why the hell you love painting.
Oh my gosh. I've been painting most of my adult life. I started in college. I worked for a college painting company back in Chicago for one summer. And then I thought, shit, I can do this myself. So second summer, I started my own business and just painted, through the summer. Did that for 4 years with the idea that I was going to come out of college and get some fancy marketing job. Didn't come out doing that. Had several jobs, hated pretty much all of them. And when my wife and I bought our first house and painted, that was when I had the aha moment of, hey, this is what I know. I should go back to this. And that was in 1999. I started on May 1st, and here in Denver, just picked up where I had stopped in college, doing exactly what I did, flyers, doing exteriors. And very quickly, I realized if I was going to do this thing like for real and like ongoing, like I had to figure out how to do interior painting. And so then we figured that out. Then I got into faux finishing. We were pretty heavy into that for several years until that kind of trend, it's not completely gone, but really there was a lot of demand back.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s. And so then we got into cabinets about 9 years ago, and that's really our biggest focus now. About 80% of my business is doing cabinets. But we do focus on interior painting and cabinets. That's all we do. We don't do anything outside. All my guys and gals are employees. So we're employee based. We are not subcontractor model.
Nice.
And I think as of right now, we've got about 12 painters. So does that give you a good
that's perfect.
You and how we do it?
Yeah. So let's see. You have a user degree in marketing.
Yeah.
That explains a lot. I did not know that was your degree. That we're going to dive into why that's important. I feel it's important.
It is.
So you started doing exteriors, and did you? People in the trade say that like you either find the trade. Some people believe that the trade finds you. Is there a balance that you feel that way? Do you feel one way or the other in doing what you did? And doing
I feel like I stumbled into it. I'll be honest, like this may upset some painters, but I don't love painting. I love the business aspect of what I do. And so I have loved the challenge of building team. I've loved the challenge of putting systems and processes into place into my business so that I could have freedom. And so I'm very grateful that I kind of fell into it in college. I was a horrible student, C student at best, but I did make it through and graduated. Probably my mom's, most proud moment ever, me graduating college. Couldn't believe it, but thankfully my wife, then girlfriend, really helped me get through. So we always joke and say my wife has 2 degrees. She's an engineer and a marketing.
Hey, it works.
But yeah, so and I, just like a lot of people, I probably tried to get out of painting several times over the last 23 years, but it's stuck with me, and I love it most days.
Well, what you said is the reason why I wanted to have you on, because be honest, you and I are built from two different
Cool.
threads. I love fucking painting. I
Yeah.
love it. I love
Yeah.
like I can talk nerd stuff all day long.
Yeah.
You're the systems guy. You're the business guy.
Yeah.
When I first met you, I don't know if you actually remember. I met you in Phoenix, Arizona,
Okay.
at PCA.
PCA Expo.
Very,
Yep.
it was at night. I had talked to you before, and everything I heard that whole weekend, the common thread was systems. Now, I'm going to throw myself under the bus here because obviously my listeners know I don't have my paint business anymore. I'm not painting. I'm doing
Yep.
social media and podcasting full time. But I've learned a lot in that experience. And I always tell my wife, like, hey, if you don't like what you do, we're going to start our paint business. And the first word out of my mouth is, we're going to have systems in place and no one's going to know that I know how to paint. My employees will never know that. This is
Yeah.
why I brought you on, because a lot of my listeners they're experienced painters. And let's get out of the paint realm. I know that you and I are painters. What we're going to talk about in this episode is not just for painters. These are things that I've listened to you talk. I've listened very deeply. We were in Denver. I met you there again, and your conversation, the way you eloquently put things out, really, I'm getting the chills thinking about seeing you there and being there live, listening to it, was like, God, this person fucking knows. He just gets it. And if I can spread that to my listeners
Yeah.
and a percentage of them grab some of it and run, I've succeeded in the podcast. So
Right.
This is why I brought you on. Is system is a scary word to painters, to people like myself. Like, I'm educated. I have some college. If I went back, I think I've take 2 credit hours on my bachelor's, but that's just me. I don't have a desire to do that. But like, I love the hands-on labor. So when I hear you guys talk about systems, it's scary. So whether you're an existing owner or a new owner, we're going to break it down why they're important, because
Yeah.
it was a huge part of my business at Splash Painting that I can sit back and be like, had I only implemented that, I could have kept these 2 employees that were really good at following a system.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can dummy it down, like when we say systems, there are different words we can entangle in there or put there that says, hey, we're going to put some things into place because this makes the will of our business that we work for work.
Yep.
So what is that to you when you think about that? I know it's a long conversation, but like, what
Right.
is the foundation, I guess? What can we get from the foundation of having
Sure.
systems in play?
Yeah, a lot of guys that paint, and like you said, this is transferable across almost any industry, or it is in every industry. And it's most guys struggle with growing larger than maybe them and 2 other painters, right? Because that's about all they can see, right? And they say, you can't find good help. Nobody will do it like I can. And
Guilty.
yeah, and if you boil things down to the basics, right, it really becomes less and less complicated. And I want to tell you a story. It has nothing to do with painting, but it is my first experience with learning a system or a process. When I was dating my wife, my father-in-law owned a very successful car wash in Chicago. And I went to work for him over Christmas break because I wasn't going to paint anything in the winter, right?
Yeah.
And so I went, and I can still remember being in his office, and he grabbed a towel, and he says, "Nick, this is the basis of everything that we do." And he grabbed the towel. I don't have one with me, but if you've been to a car wash, you see they're not very big towels. They're typically this size, and he showed me how to fold it so that when you wash or when you dried off the car, you would always have a clean side of the rag. And it was, I don't remember how many folds there were, but you literally could dry the whole car with one rag instead of having to use 5, right? And you're not going to get smears and smudges. And that was the very first system that was ever introduced to me in a business. And I didn't realize it at the time, probably. But as I've looked back on my life, I'm like, wow, that was an awesome. And I thought he was being kind of a jerk, or just being over, like, micromanagey. But it really did help us, because time is of essence. That he had a very busy car wash, and they were just pumping them out. And the name of the game was how many tips could you make and get. And so that made us so much more efficient. And the less towels that we used, the less they had to dry and wash and all that kind of stuff. And so so everything in painting is, when I hire people, I see, what we do is not rocket science.
No, it's not.
Our biggest competitor is the homeowner.
Interesting.
Right?
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Why do you say that? And how do your employees, do you say this to your employees?
I say this to everybody that we hire, and I say it often with just about every, unless you're in the super high end, houses, those homeowners aren't going to paint their house. But our biggest competitor is a homeowner. I hear it all the time, oh my gosh, Nick, I can't do these, the tall ceilings in the house, but we can do the other ones. And so it's one of those projects in the house that most people feel like they can tackle, right? And so what we do is not rocket science. It's, and I don't know what the percentage is, but 60% of what we do is prep, right? And people will typically agree with me on that.
You make your money in the prep game, not in the paint game. So I believe that.
Yeah. And so when you think about prep, it's not hard. It's just doing it the right way, taping baseboards. And I know that there's guys that are tape, no tape, blah, blah, blah. We tape everything, right? So, because I hire everybody with zero experience, and we train them how to paint. And if it's not taped, then I got to have somebody that's skilled that can do the fine cutting. But on a project, we tape off all door frames, window casings, cabinets that meet the drywall. Everything is taped, so that if I got a new guy, and we typically do, like, they can cut in all of those things as long as they've been taped and caulked. Then that person can take a brush and cut all of that stuff in. So the hardest thing we always say is the hardest thing we have to teach somebody how to do is to cut the ceiling line.
It's very hard
for the lead painter until that prep has come up through our system of training and is introduced to doing the cut in lines. And so it's merely just breaking things down to its most basic components. Even you talk about doing hard stuff like staining and lacquering. I mean, you break those things down, and the individual components aren't that hard. They take practice, they take muscle memory to get faster.
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing that we have to teach people is how to manage a big project so that it gets done in an efficient manner. But the individual components, taping baseboards, painting baseboards, rolling walls, none of that stuff is super technical.
My wife says it's mindless. I got offended the very first time she said that to me. She's like, your job is so mindless. And I really did take offense. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm great at this shit. I have a good mind. But she's right.
Mm-hmm. One of my
you're holding back a giggle, but it's true. Like,
no, I know. One of my leads stopped by last night because he had finished a job down here, and I think he was close to my house, and he wanted to drop the check off. And we had a drink together, and he was talking about how he loves it because he gets into a zone, right? Like when he's painting and he has music on, and he's just like, it's just, once you know how to do it, it's that muscle memory. It's just that it's mindless. And, I'm going to bring something up that we may have brought up in another place in this conversation, but the thing that introduced me to systems was the E-Myth, Michael Gerber's E-Myth book. I listened to that book 12 times while painting. And it was just, I could focus on listening to those words while I painted. So I was in the zone. I can remember basements I was in. And that's the great thing. Like if you don't know how to do something like systems that we're talking about, there's so much content out there that you can listen to while we're painting,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can get ready for scale. You can get ready for, creating a bigger business. If people don't understand systems, like I always bring up a couple of businesses, two businesses. I bring up McDonald's for one reason. McDonald's is, if you ever watched the movie The Founder, they go through, and there's some great scenes in The Founder talking about how they were creating some systems, and they were working on the layout of the kitchen, and they tried it like I don't know how many different times over this afternoon, of just like setting up a fake kitchen, right?
Yeah.
And once they found it and everything kind of worked, they were able to save money, go faster, do the same quality. And I bring up McDonald's a lot of times because most people are like, well, McDonald's doesn't have the best burger,
It's not
right?
about the best sometimes.
But it's a great business. Those businesses are super profitable for their owners, and they have, they can very quickly teach somebody that has no experience in the kitchen and teach them how to make a burger or make French fries or whatever. And it's just having those systems to do that very quickly. The other business I like to bring up a lot, and I actually compare my business to this business a lot, is Starbucks.
Okay.
And you go to each individual Starbucks, they all look different, right? They're all decorated a little bit differently, but they all have the same feel. They all, you order at one end, you pick up your coffee at the other end. One person takes your order, another person creates the drink, and it's seamless. I don't have to then go, I don't tell my order to the order person and then have to go talk to the barista and say my nuance of what I want in my drink. No, it's communicated along their system, and then they call out my name, Nick. It's not white glove. It's not like I'm at the Four Seasons and I sit down and everything is brought to me. It's so that's why I like talking about Starbucks. I always say we're the Starbucks of paint contracting. It's very friendly. What you're gonna get because everybody is making the same cup of coffee. And I've had my vanilla soy latte in Denver and Chicago, and I was just over in Amsterdam. I got it over there. It's the same.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do with systems, is create the same experience, the same level of quality every single time.
And I think that, thinking of the analogy Starbucks, you and I are both coffee people. I know we like our coffee. It's we want it a particular way. We want it in an orderly fashion. We want it right. Like I get kid temperature coffee because hot coffee literally just makes my body temperature stay up for days. So like I'm very particular about my coffee. So when you say that, it makes sense. You touched on a few things, Nick, that I want to kind of go back to if we can for a little bit. You said something interesting that I have felt as a business owner. I've seen it, and no one else has ever said this except for you. Probably just one of those conversations doesn't. You said you hire new people. You don't hire people with experience. Listen, if you're an experienced painter looking for a job, this is no way throwing shade on you. But we got to have this conversation because there's a reason why.
Mm-hmm.
We can't. It's hard now. I said I don't do systems, but I think to be safe, every painter has, or contractor, whatever branch of business you own, you have a system, you have a flow, you have a way of doing things. It's obviously got you to a position where you're ready to hire people on. But then, and this is when in Phoenix at the PCA event, it was at the rodeo. I don't know if you went that night to the rodeo when they had that there. Sherwin-Williams is sponsoring the rodeo at the PCA. Everybody on that bus was a business owner. And I noticed one thing about everybody except for me. They didn't paint. They rarely stepped on the job site,
Mm-hmm.
and they hired new people. And I just thought, what? Why? I like painting. I thought, but they're like you. You're a business owner. And I think that's a difference. And I don't know your father-in-law, maybe that was what you saw in him too. Like he owned a successful business, but he wasn't out washing every car and doing it. He had a system in place, very easy. I mean, the conversation about a rag makes sense. But when you think about not hiring new people, if there's someone listening to this podcast right now and they're looking for a job and they can't find it, but they have experience, what would you tell them? Is there something you could say, hey, like to me, it's like lose your ego. Just go in and act like you're new. Forget everything you know. And eventually what you do know will come back the way that company wants you to show up.
Yeah, the problem that we've had with guys that have experience, and we've fallen into the trap of hiring them off and on, and every time we're like, yep, same thing.
It's the same thing.
They always say this. They always say the same. Oh, I'm going to do it exactly the way you say, Nick. I want to do your system, but eventually it all creeps in. Like this last guy, we had a guy that came on board with us. He had been painting, I think, with his brother or somebody, and at first it was great because the guy just picks up and is able to do with a few tweaks, the same exact system. But then over time, we see this attitude of, well, I don't want to do it your way. I've been painting for 10 years. I know what I'm doing. I don't need to do that one little thing that you guys say I have to do, right? And it always, and we ended up firing him because of a bad attitude of not wanting to do it the way we've taught them. The other thing that we see and we've experienced is those that come with experience, they'll reach out to, like, I'll be posting ads this time of year. We're in November going into December. So now through end of January is a great time to hire if you're busy, because there's so many painters that aren't busy. And so what we've experienced in when hiring guys that have experienced this time of year is that in a couple of months, we get into March and April and things get busier in other places, and they'll go back to where they were, or they'll get some offer from a previous customer and we'll lose them. And so there's no loyalty. When I take somebody, and I will tell you, the industry we like to pull from or steal from is the restaurant industry. We like back of house people. I have chefs. I have a chef that was on Top Chef twice. She's amazing. I have a guy who was a bar manager. I have a guy who used to run a large casino food department, whatever that's called. And my project manager came out of the kitchen. Like, all these people worked in the kitchen. What I like about them is that they all work their ass off. They have horrible hours, evenings, weekends, and the pay's horrible. And so we steal them because we know they're going to be hard workers. They understand systems and processes, because in kitchens you have to have systems and processes.
I was gonna say that they understand a system, but not your system that equates to their work that they need to learn.
Yeah. So we bring them on and we teach them our system, and very quickly they're like, man, this is the best thing ever. I don't have to work weekends. I'm off by like 4:30, and they have the ability to make, our average painter makes $55,000, and my top painters make between $80,000 and $90,000 a year. And they don't work overtime. None of them work overtime. I'd love to get them to work overtime. But
I don't believe that businesses should be working overtime. I've paid my fair share of overtime. And after that year of looking at it, I was over 60K. Like, that should just tell you right there, like,
your margins go down.
I lost it. It was horrific. Like, I should be embarrassed saying that, but this is why I have this podcast. I want people to know, like, you can do it. So, not to keep on systems the whole time, because I think we can learn, but someone say this, listen to this. If they're starting a new business or they've been around for 3 years, because it sounds like you did the work back and forth, off and on, then you decided you were going to start your business. What would be the key? Back to the wash rag with your father-in-law. What would you tell anyone, no matter what business they're going in, when they're starting to do a system? Because I like the employment part. I never thought in the aspect of, like, you hiring a restaurant. It makes sense. I personally like hiring people who had experience because they wanted to bring their 12 friends on, and it just became like a good old rugby team. Like, no, I don't want that. Like, I want workers. Right. What would you advise someone day one of a business, or, hey, it's 2023. I'm getting ready to revamp my business? Because I think every business owner this time of year looks back at their year and says, okay, What can we do? What did we fuck up on? What did we not make? What would you tell them the number one thing in a system building? Because there's a lot, but if there's one or two
Sure.
things to, hey, you
First
got to
thing-
implement these now.
Yeah, Robbie, I would say the first thing you have to know is what's the best way to do that one thing. I don't care what you're talking about, whether it's a marketing something or painting trim or painting a room. Like, what's the one best way to do it? And once you figure that out, you write it down. Step 1, we bring drop cloths in. Step 2, we put plastic over furniture. Step 3, we wipe down the baseboards if we're not painting them. And you just take it one step at a time and write it down. And I'll talk to a lot of painters and I'll say, do you have systems in place? Oh yeah, we have systems. Great. Do you have them written down? Oh no, they're just in my head, right? And so if it's not written down, it's like a goal, right? If it's not written down, it's not real. You have to write it down and figure out. And so once you figure it out, then you go, can I teach somebody to do this? And if there's a step that's not fully baked, then you got to go back in and go, okay, let me break it down further. But once you have it written down, you can literally then hand it to somebody and go, this is how we do painting, right? And you've got to make sure that everyone's on board and goes, this is the way we're going to do it every single time. I remember, so we've talked about cabinet painting, right? And I would say in all of my business, we're constantly tweaking the systems. Like if something doesn't go right, we've got to go, okay, what do we need to change in that system so that we don't have that pain anymore, right? And so early on when we were figuring out our system for cabinets, we were having a problem with oak cabinets. Every time we would do an oak cabinet or kitchen, customers were complaining and they would say, you're not putting enough paint on. And we're like, yeah, actually we said we were going to put 2 coats of primer, 2 coats of finish, and we've actually put 4 coats of finish, and it still looks like this, right? And so we just kept banging our heads against the wall, like, why is this not, what do we have to do? And so we finally figured out that we had to roll and literally push the primer into the oak to fill the gaps, right? And once we did that, then we didn't have any more problems. And so we were like, all right, this is the new system. When we do oak, we have to roll the primer and push it into those gaps to fill it. And then we spray one more coat and then we move on to our finish coats. And once we did that, then we didn't have any more problems with oak cabinets, right? So we solved the problem. We said, okay, it's not going to be an if and or, it's just going to be, this is the way we do it every single time to make sure. And I remember having that conversation with my project manager. I was like, what do we need to do so that every time we have a customer that's happy? Not like once in a while or once in a while it doesn't work. Like, what do we have to do? If it's 3 coats, I don't care. What is it? So that I know, so that we can price it appropriately, so that 100% of the time I've got a customer that's like, man, this looks great.
And I want to pick up on that. You mentioned something that's exactly like when you look at Starbucks or McDonald's, like you said, they've changed over the years. They've made changes. McDonald's now has 2 drive-thrus. You pay at 1, actually 3. You pay at 1. You can pick up at 1 or go to the next window. So we're going to pick up right there. Let's hear from our sponsor for this show, and we'll pick up right there with how we're implementing systems a little bit better.
Attention Tribers. Plant Powered Marketing is your cutting-edge marketing agency specializing in SEO, Google My Business, website development, and many other strategies that get you ranked #1 on Google. We're your go-to marketing agency for businesses who want to see real, tangible results from their online presence. Our team of experts has years of experience in getting businesses to the top of Google and generating leads through effective online marketing campaigns. Remember to let us build your next website. Contact us if you want to outrank the competition. Plant Powered Marketing, 971-570-0511 or plantpoweredmarketing@gmail.com.
All right, everyone. Thank you for that. I appreciate listening to that whole sponsorship there. That means a lot to me here at Blue Collar Tribe. So you got into cabinets. One thing I always want to touch back, because when I have guests on like you that are you're known very much across the world in what you do, Nick, and I respect you very much. I've heard a lot about you, from both sides of the teeter totters, as we've talked about, but you have a brilliant mind when it comes to business. And I respect that because you've taken something and you said, like, you know how to paint, but you wanted to be the business owner. And I think that with contractors across every scale of contracting, we have this ego. I had it. I want to be the best. I want to be the best painter. I want to do the best, but I also want to be successful in business. And I think that with what I'm hearing from you talk about this in the multiple conversations I've heard you talk about, is like, you're still the business owner. A lot of people have that disconnect of like, well, if I have a project manager, I'm not successful. Or if I'm not doing the bids, or if I'm not rolling the wall anymore, you lose control. But in fact, what you've done is you've stopped that merry-go-round, so to speak, and turned it the other way and said, hey, we're going the wrong way. We're going to turn it around where I'm going to take my strength, whatever that may be, implement that, and then build around me. And by writing things down, like when you said write a list down, I remember when I heard that years ago, I'm like, no, I'm just going to go in and spew it off the top of my head. Stop. Fucking stop if you're a contractor. Write it down. White collars, blue collars, pink collars. I mean, I get my hair done. I go to the salon and I have a certain person that does my hair. And when they do women's hair, they have a list. My guy, he has a list of things that he's doing. Color changes, perms, whatever. And it's like, that doesn't mean anything. It just means you're a little bit more organized and ahead of the game. So you touched on cabinets, Nick. I don't want to, break this system down all the time, but why cabinets for you? You're like pretty much the king on the West Coast. Like, I know some guys East Coast wise, but West Coast, like, I've seen your work. I know customers actually, because I have family in Denver, I have friends in Denver. I know people you've done work for, like, hey, this wall's like, go with them. They're not going to do you wrong. Whatever they say, pay. Like, hey, Splash, can you come out? Like, no, I'm not coming out to do your damn cabinets. I'm going to go fishing if I'm in Colorado, not paint a wall.
Right. Yeah.
So why cabinets for you? Because it's like, I guess I'm getting to is you've done exteriors, interiors, you still do interiors, but like, I love when businesses, roofers, framers, drywallers, they hone in on one thing and then capitalize it because of the systems that they've put in. So why cabinets for you? Where did that come from?
Well, we were early to the game. When I first started doing cabinets, I didn't hear anybody like you got all these guys that are on Instagram and TikTok and all over the place, right?
Stop talking about me, Nick.
Yeah. And, but so we were early to the game. This is like 9 years ago. And I started to see, and I'm pretty good at watching trends. I have my finger on the pulse of interior design a little bit and, of what's going on. And so when I started to see that trend move to a painted cabinet, constantly on social media, on the magazines, and then we started to get the calls. And I up to that point, like I remember doing a kitchen years ago. This is probably like 15, 18 years ago, and like sitting in their kitchen, like literally hand painting with a brush, like cabinets, and it was just horrible. And so I was like, man, I think this is, we probably need to figure this out. And so we booked a couple. I'm not a spray guy. I didn't know anything about sprayers. And so I grabbed one of my painters and I was like, Destin, we got to figure this out. Like, let's go get, I remember we went and bought our first piece of equipment was we went to, it's not the Army surplus. There's a
Harbor Freight.
Harbor Freight. Yep. We went to Harbor Freight and we got a pot gun?
Their Kraus pot gun system.
Yep. And just like an air compressor. And we're like trying to figure it out. And it was horrible. Like guys were like, oh my gosh, this is, it was bad. And so then I was like, well, sorry, my dog's barking.
Oh, you're good. Bring him on.
So then I was like, well, maybe we should just invest in an HVLP. And didn't know anything about those either. And so we bought our first HVLP. And Dustin was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is so much better. And about that same time, we were doing what a lot of people were doing, like tenting off and trying to figure it out. And I had helped a friend move, and another friend of mine owns a window and door company, and he lent him one of their box trucks, and we emptied the box truck. And I had gone and visited a painter in Seattle and saw what they were doing with cabinets, and they were bringing them back to the office and spraying them and whatnot. And I didn't have an office at the time. I was literally working out of my house. And so we emptied this box trailer, and I'm standing in the box trailer. I'm like, this would be perfect. Mobile, right there. And I was like, let's get a box truck. And they started investigating. I'm like, oh, that's expensive. And what if it breaks down? And I'd always run trailers, right, for all of our equipment. And so I was like, well, I guess I'd just get a big trailer. And so I went, and I was like, let me just find like the cheapest trailer I could find. And I bought this trailer for like $4,000. It was 20 foot long, looked like hell. But it did exactly what we needed. We put a wall in, we sprayed it out, and the very first kitchen, it was a pretty big kitchen, super nice neighborhood, and we had set it up over the Christmas holiday, and we were going to be in there for 2 weeks painting this kitchen, and that's how long it was taking us to do a kitchen before this. And I came at the end, and I was like, so Dustin, what do you think about the trailer thing? And he's like, this is awesome. It took him 6 days to finish that project that was originally taking us 2 weeks.
Damn.
And so he's like, we got some work to do, and we're still trying to figure out the HVLP thing and all, but we were like, we're on to something. And so we dialed that in, and we started posting a lot of pictures of cabinets on Facebook, and people were just, that's what I want. And so it just over and over and over. And very quickly we were hiring guys, and it was just like, that's what everybody wanted. And so we just kept adding trailers. And, we got up to, at our peak, we were probably painting about 45, 50 kitchens a month. And we've backed off a little bit from that.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of kitchens, right? And very low problems. The first couple of years we had problems. We were, we give a lifetime warranty and everything we do. So we were messing up.
I was going to ask about that.
And we had to repaint. We probably had to repaint, I would say maybe a total of like 10 kitchens over the years in the early days. And then after that, it was just like little things, like they forgot the kick plate, and they didn't prep the kick plate right, and so we just fixed that. And now we literally have zero problems with any kitchens. But it was because we dialed in those systems, and the guys they understood, like, if we skip a step, I got to go back and fix this thing on my time. And so that's kind of how we got specialized. It was just because it's just listening to customers, listening to the demand. And back then we were having a hard time really filling our wall schedule out with the painters. So we just kept moving wall painters over to cabinet painting and training them. And now we've actually seen a shift. So now people are so happy with the cabinets that we've painted that they're like, well, why would we have anybody else come and paint the walls? You guys are awesome. So now we're super busy on walls because of all the cabinet projects that we've done. So that's kind of how we've gotten to where we're at now.
And I don't want to pull the curtain back, but you talked about that in Denver, why you do lifetime warranties. It makes sense. They trust you. They leave you a good review, and we'll get to reviews. Don't forget that. I want to get to the reviews. It's important that business owners forget about that part of their business. It's an important, intricate part. You used a word that I want everybody to write down. I want you to write it down really big on your dashboard somewhere, on your truck, on your phone. Text yourself this: dial down. That is one of the hardest things for blue collar people that love what they do. We have this mind that, like, we can do anything. Like, I don't need to follow the instructions, which I'm guilty, but we're actually dialing down and don't even realize it. But when we're talking business owners right now, not the concept of work, because like I said, a lot of the work that contractors do, like hanging drywall, mudding, taping, like, I'm not being a dick. It's mindless work. Like, you can do it. But if you have it dialed down, like you said, your lead, I don't remember his name, Dustin, but like, he listens to music. He came over yesterday. Like, I love hearing that one of your employees came over, had a drink with you. You had a great conversation. It's a holiday weekend. Yesterday was Thanksgiving. So he could have been home watching the World Cup, watching the Macy's Day Parade or whatever the hell people watch, some football, but like he's having a drink with the owner of the company. His boss is writing a check saying, "Hey, I'm really liking this." Like that's a testament to you, Nick, as an owner. So and that's what I wanted to bring you on is like, but when I hear you say dial down, it's a word that is missed in the vocabulary. So I'd like you to add that in because like your cabinets, like you spray now. Do you ever brush and roll any cabinets right now?
No, we brush and roll the boxes, and
Brush
we
and roll
spray
boxes.
we spray the doors.
What products are you using right now, or products? Is it different?
Advance is the product, the finish coat, and Sticks is the primer.
I love the advance. That's Benjamin Moore, right?
Benjamin Moore. Yep.
Yeah, love it. What's the wildest color you've ever done?
Pink. We just did a pink island.
You got to send me a picture. Have you posted it? I got to see a picture. I love it.
Yeah, it wasn't that impressive of a kitchen, but it does have a big island. I don't think like the appliances were in it or anything, so I don't know if I even posted it on social. But yeah, that was just recent. That's just a couple weeks ago. Pink.
I like to ask this question to contractors, and you're one of the first contractors that's on. Of the experience of your business, is there a story like just a story that like it's unbelievable, but it happened that you can share? Like I have like 3 stories that one of my friends thankfully was working for me at the time, so we can share that. And the other story is just I had some random guys work with me, and I love sharing the stories. But is there like an oh ho moment, like I cannot believe I got through this and still had my business?
Oh yeah, I walked away from $12,000 on a project once because the homeowner was a complete ass.
And it happens.
And it happens. Like I did the math. I talked to lawyers, and they're like, he's, we've seen this before, Nick. He's an asshole. He's going to fight you every step of the way. Even if you win, then you got to like still recover the money. And I just said, at best, I'm going to get $3,000 out of this thing. Like, I just don't want to spend the months and months of time. So I literally walked away. I mean, that's the worst story I have of a project. It came down to he kept doing change orders and adding things, and then all of a sudden he owed us a ton of money, and then he was like, "I'm not happy with the results of the paint," and it was just a horrible experience. But we just moved on.
Yeah, change orders, kids. If you don't have it, I don't care what line of work you're in, you need to have it. Implement it. Someone told me that month one of working.
The system that we actually implemented after that project was if we're on a job longer than 2 weeks, we take a partial payment.
Yeah. And that's why I like you, Nick. I want to say this the right way so it doesn't come off as like the wrong way. Like, your shit and you lose your ego. In a respectful way, I say that. You lose your ego because you're willing to implement. You're smart enough. That's what it is. You're smart enough to know, like, hey, this didn't work out. Let me go back to my office. Let me talk to my team, talk to myself, maybe your wife. I know she's very involved in what you do, and I think that's beautiful. But you're smart enough to know it's not about my ego. It's about Walls by Design. It's about the employees. And it's about me caring about my business, that I know that I need to be open to change. So I kudos you for that. That's hard to do. It's extremely hard.
And I would to piggyback on that. The other thing that I try to do is if we have made a mistake, if something's gotten through, we followed our system, whatever system that was, and the employee lost out, I'll always make it right with them, and I will take the hit. Because I'll just take the hit once. I won't take it again. We'll change the system. We'll learn from that. Yeah. And that's, everyone says, oh, you're successful or whatever. Anybody that's had any level of success knows that they're, we've all seen the meme of the iceberg, right? It's like everything below nobody sees or has seen, but those are all the lessons that we've learned over the years, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to learn from our mistakes, and by, I don't know, being humbled, by admitting, hey, I was wrong. I'm not going to do that again. Then we change it. And so that's, it's kind of my philosophy in business. and it's helped us be successful. It's helped my team trust me, because they have to trust me in a lot of areas, and they know that I'm always going to be out for their best interest.
Yeah, it's like this theme of season 7 podcast of the Blue Collar Tribe has been adding stuff to your toolbox. We love tools. I've never met a contractor who doesn't like to buy a new tool, whether it's an HVLP. I mean, I have 7 spares. Lord knows I don't need another one, but I'm getting another one, But this is a tool that I want to add. In the prior episodes, if you listen to them, adding systems is just another tool. It's going to help you grow your business. And one thing, I know you got to run, but I want to touch base on it. 2 things. One, and then after this, we'll talk about your review system, or the review process that you love, that I absolutely commend you on doing, because it's beautiful. With your team, do you let your team leads kind of really take the reins? Because that is hard for businesses. And with the success you're having, you're pushing out 50 cabinets a month at times. It's probably, or has been, scary at times to say, okay, Frank, Susie, whatever the names are, we're going to let you take hold. But how do you find that as the business owner to really trust them? Is there something you've done, or is it different with each individual that is and has been a lead within the Walls by Design team?
In our system of training people, it's a system, and it is slowly them building trust with us. I always compare employees and training employees like your kids, right? When their kids are little, you don't let them cross the street by themselves, right? They have to earn that trust, right? That they're gonna look both ways every single time. You don't, when you're teaching them how to drive, we've gone through that. I've got an 18 and 20-year-old. Like they have to earn the right to be able to take that car out by themselves, right? Yeah. And so it's the same way with our employees. Like they've got to, they don't get into cabinet painting is like the elite for us, right? Our best painters are cabinet painters, and so you've got to, as a prep, you have to prove to me that you're going to do it the way we've trained you to do it every single time.
Yeah.
Then they earn the opportunity to be a lead. And when we first give them a lead status, they don't have employees underneath them or with them. They're just by themselves, and they have to earn the trust so that they can actually have a project by themselves and be responsible for a project. And then before they can go into cabinet painting, they have to prove to us that they can, over time, manage projects well and have happy customers. Because by the time they get into cabinet painting, like there's a lot of things in that system that if they don't do it right in the beginning, I won't know until 3 months later when I get a call and we've got a warranty issue, right? So a lot of the prep stuff, if they don't do the prep stuff, that paint can fail. So I have to have that trust that they're going to do what we've trained them to do. So over time, we're building trust with each other.
And that's just part of the system that you have.
That's part of the system. Yeah. And
Beautiful.
So when I've got, 12 crews out there painting cabinets, I love them all. They're all doing a great job. Some of them are faster than the others. Some of them might have a little bit better finish hand, but it's so minute. But yeah, it's earning trust. And, you've heard me talk about, I spent 12 weeks this summer at the cabin in a different state, and I'm completely I can't go check on them in town. And I let my project manager manage the guys.
But that's a sign of a healthy business owner.
Yeah. So when guys come to me and they have an issue, I go talk to Dustin. He's your boss, not me. Yeah. If you got a payroll issue, I do payroll. So then come talk to me about a payroll issue. But if you're talking about a project, go talk to your PM and figure out what needs to happen. But
I like that. It's like I said, it's a very good sign of healthiness within the business realm of being a painter, which is honestly in the contract world. It's hard. A lot of us painters, I mean, even myself, I was in Florida last Christmas. My phone would not shut up. And I'm like, guys, and I came home and I had to stop. Like you hit this wall it's time that you're healthy. So last thing I want to touch on, Nick, before you go, reviews. From day one of meeting you, you've talked about it. You put it on your Instagram page where people do reviews. They're important, but
Yeah.
if you were to base it to, again, let's elementary it. For a lot of my listeners are they're new, or they're trying to revamp their business. Some of them are experienced and doing well, just like you. But I think that in the realm of this whole conversation, this last 50 minutes we've had, to wrap it up, is it is important to be able to be open and add things, and always being willing to dial down and learn. So when you talk about reviews, what is it for reviews that have made it so important within your business for you that you share a lot of?
Well, I would say 5 or 6 years ago, we had a good business, we had a good reputation. But I was sharing in our Facebook group some numbers of lead generation and all that. And somebody asked me, why don't you have more repeat business, Nick? And I probably said something, quick off the cuff, whatever. But it burned inside me. And I was like, yeah, why don't we have? And it was because we were doing a good job, but we weren't doing a great job. Okay. And so that made me dial into our systems and processes. What wasn't going well? What were we communicating correctly? And I made it a focus of, at the time we had, 20 Google reviews or something. I don't remember the exact number, but it wasn't anything to write home about. And so I just made it a focus. I said, we need to get to 100 Google reviews, right? And so, and guys are always like, oh, there's a system, you can buy a program, or you can sign up for something, and there's companies that will help you do that. But really, if you're not doing a great job, you're not going to get a good Google review, right? And so we talked about it with our team, and I said, hey, here's a way for your customers to give you a tip, and it's not going to cost them any money. I said, if you get a 5-star Google review and it names you, I'm going to give you $100.
Dang.
And I said, go tell your customers that. Because when you're on the job site, like, you're building that relationship with the customer, right? They like you, you're doing, there's this give and take. I mean, not on everybody, but like 80% of people are really nice. And if they get to know you, they want to, like, my guys get tips. We just went out to a dinner. I don't know if you saw the social media stuff that I posted about that, but I asked my guys, I was like, Justin, same guy that was over last night. And I said, Justin, what's the best tip you've ever got? Because he does a great job with his customers. Like, they just love him. He's crazy. He's got dreadlocks. He's got all sorts of stories about traveling the world. He's awesome, right? And he goes, $450. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And Brandon, who's like the opposite of Justin, right? Brandon is super quiet, and he goes, 500. And I was like, that's awesome, right? And but on top of that, then they can also get these Google reviews. And so that has really, ever since we implemented that, we regularly get Google reviews. Right now we've got 367 Google reviews, and I would say probably, I've got a couple bad ones in there. I won't sugarcoat it, but we're probably at least 360 amazing 4 and 5, and most of those are 5-star Google reviews. And if you read them, they literally talk about like all the touch points in our system. Like, oh my gosh, Rachel was amazing. She was our estimator. And then I talked with Heather, and Heather was so good at communicating and letting me know along the way. And then Tim came over and did our handles. Jackie did the color, consultation with us, and she was awesome. And then Dustin came, and then Brian came and he was, put the, icing on the cake. Like, they literally will go through and talk about multiple people in my organization. And leave these big long books of a Google review, which is awesome.
Has it helped your repeats?
I believe so. When you have that many, that's called social proof, right?
Yeah.
And there's lots of different ways to do social proof, but these days, reviews, like when you buy a product on Amazon, like I was looking at something today, I'm going to look at the reviews on that product. And so I'm looking at that, and when I'm comparing two different things, and I'm talking to somebody who's got like 20, and his reviews are like, they did a great job. And then they read mine, and it lists like 4 or 5 people, and I've got over 300. It's like, all right, he's a little bit more expensive than this guy. I think I'm going to go with these guys. Right?
It shows the human side of life, which a lot of, unfortunately, in society today, we've lost touch of that. So it does add that touch. I want to touch base on your negative reviews because I have a firm belief, and I don't say it a lot. I'm okay with getting a negative review. While as a business owner, I would tell my team the beginning. So for me, we were slow. I mean, I always kept my guys busy. I can't think of a time that we never had work. But when we got into residential exteriors, which was my favorite, it is my favorite thing to do other than just like faux design walls. I told everyone the beginning of the season, even my employees, and I hired them throughout. I said, listen, we're going to get one negative review a year. It's just going to happen. Now, if anyone knows where I live at, I'm like at the Mecca of Karens and Richards. It's going to fucking happen, So I have an expectation. And of the 7 years, we had 3. I shut my business page down. I looked at everything before I shut it down. I think we had like 40 reviews or something like that. And I never honed in on it, but you're going to have them. And I think for businesses, sometimes a review stings. The very first time you get that negative, Nick, I'm sure knowing your personality, you're like, what the hell? Like, we did everything we could have done and whatnot, but it doesn't show. Like, it's like, what could we have done? But I think it gives the opportunity for business owners and employees together to say, hey, what could we have done? And then go back to when you started cabinets. All right, a pot cup didn't work, so we went to an HVLP. So it allows that opportunity to like say, hey, we're going to get better at it by having negatives and adding systems. If you find my page, let me know because I've looked for it. I've been able to find it. I'm looking for my.
I brought up our negatives. I was like, what are they?
But you look at them though, Nick, and it's like I think it's like I'm a football nerd. I talk about this so let me just get this in. Like, there's football games. Like tomorrow, my team, the Ohio State Buckeyes, is the biggest day of football for me. Plays the team up north, the Michigan something, and it's a big deal, But if you lose, it sucks. But it gives you time to go back and look at the drawing board and say, hey, what can we do different? And I guess what I'm saying is like, look back at them. Don't live in them. Don't live in your negatives, but have an expectation of like, hey, because I'm sure you look at positives, and I know you don't need to call one out, but like, I'm sure there's a positive someone left you and you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe he left me a 5-star. I for sure would have thought that I was getting 3s. We have them. I mean, I know on my page I had them. You have them. Well, Nick, I know you got to run. I love having you on. I could talk systems.
Before we go, let me just comment one thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I would recommend to people is always respond to every Google review. So I am ninja man about responding, thanking people. And in fact, I've created a reputation that I will always respond to the negative reviews. I was in a situation once where we had an unhappy customer and it went pretty south. Like the F-bomb from both sides of us were, I brought my whole team in, we talked, and he goes, all right, Nick, I know how this is going to go. Like, you're not going to do anything. And then I'm going to leave you a negative review on Google, and then you're going to explain it away. And so I know people know that about me. Like I'm going to stick to the facts, and I'm going to say this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And I will also say that I rectified the problem with him. We had a problem with a pinstripe glazing thing that they weren't happy with. And anyways, I won't go into the details, but we ended up saying, all right, I will repaint your cabinets for free, but we're not going to pinstripe glaze them. And he was like, fair enough. And then we didn't get a Google review from him.
No, that's a good thing to add on as you do that. One question I was going to ask you, I know I can have a zillion questions for you. You probably get a lot of calls for exteriors. What do you do with those? Do you pass those on?
We have a couple of people that we refer to.
Okay.
Yeah. And these guys refer business to me as well. So if you're listening and you want some referrals, like know that there's a gift, I'm scratching his back. And
do you take a percentage of it or no? Okay. See, I did when I did. I don't because
Yeah, I
no
used
one
to
calls
try
me.
to do all that kind of stuff, and I just
You don't want to chase money.
I just no, we just do what we do, and I just want to make sure that whoever we're referring is going to do a great job. Like we've got a countertop guy. We're in so many kitchens, right? So we probably give Jason, I don't know, 5 kitchens a month. I don't know, it's a
I don't
lot.
know if does Jason have a big red beard?
No. Mm-mm.
There's a guy in Denver. I'll text you. I found him on TikTok because that's where I hang out.
Yeah.
Um, he teaches a course on redoing countertops,
Mm-hmm.
epoxy, like amazing. Like I looked at his course, like $2,500. I told my wife, I'm like, hey, she's like, you don't do that. I'm like, I know, but I still want to learn. Like, I love like you at the very beginning, like you don't like painting, you the business aspect of it. I'm like, oh shit, throw me in, let me go. I'll do that shit. But
Yeah.
um, Denver is a very unique place for contractors. You have a lot of money, but you also have a lot of, I mean, with money comes smart people. So I don't want to take that away, but you have a lot of people that um, kind of go outside the norm of what you would see. It's much more, as I like to say, like hippie, um, more open, vibrant place of life.
Parts of it, yeah, that's definitely Boulder.
Yeah.
You
And well,
know,
that's where most of my family lives at, my friends. So it's like I say that, but like Denver's I have a few friends that have businesses there, and you guys always seem to be doing good. And I love that about the contractors. That's why I asked, like, do you feed those businesses? It's good. Like, I know you don't subcontract, but when you to touch base on this last, like, if you're gonna branch out, like if you don't do exteriors and you pass those off, you need to make sure that that exterior company is a good reputation because that customer may hire John Smith Painting Exteriors, and if they fuck up, they're not going to call Wiles by Design or Splash
well, I
Cabinets
might
to do
get a
their
call
cabinets.
saying, "Hey, this guy messed up."
That too, yeah. And you don't want that. Well, is there anything you need to plug, Nick, or not working on anything, just
I'm
killing
not,
it?
man. I used to do all sorts of things,
I
and
know.
this year was my year to focus, and I'm literally back just 100% in my business. I'm working. Actually, I don't know if you know this. I'm back on job sites right now. I'm painting a little bit, but I'm working my ass off this winter so that this summer I can be up at the cabin and take my 12 weeks off and do all that.
Is there a reason why you're on the job? I did see that post. I did comment on
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
Is there a reason why, or is
a
it just
couple
to?
things as we we stayed booked out 3 months, so we didn't have anybody that could do these jobs. So I was like, well, I'll jump on and I'll be on. I'm doing like 3 projects a month, and then I take time off in between to do my other stuff. And but we're in a process where we just hired somebody, and we're training a brand new guy. Um, and I've got another a friend of one of my great employees. A friend of hers is moving here in the end of December, and so we're hoping that is a second person. So I'm really just trying to building up some team. We let a few guys go this year that weren't performing fantastically. And they just weren't a great culture fit for us. And so we're doing a little bit of rebuild. A little bit of my concern has been the economy going into next year. That doesn't seem to be as big of an issue for us as because we're super busy. I actually just got a contact this week, a company that will be referring us that could potentially give us 10 kitchens a week.
Nice.
So we need to ramp up again. So it's just a combination of a few things, and it's been great for me to be back in the field and to remember what it's like to be a painter. And the great thing is I don't have to project manage. I don't have to sell them. I literally just show up and paint. Like it's been nice actually.
Yeah.
I get in the zone.
I saw your post when you did that. You always look happy. You're always a happy, cheerful guy. But I saw that post. I was like, yep, he's in that space. It's good. I'm proud of you. You're doing a kick-ass job. I know you've let go of a few things. You seem really balanced right now in business and work. So kudos to you because Lord knows, and I know it is not easy. It is not easy. People can find you on Instagram, Walls by Design. You are killing it on the reels. I got to tell you that. Like, I like the reels.
Thanks to you.
Yeah. I appreciate it. You are doing good though. I like it. It's always interesting to me when I see, like, you're very personal in person. And over the last 6 months, I feel you've really kind of put that out there on social media,
Uh-huh.
to let people get to know a different side of you. And we had that conversation in Denver too. Like I haven't, for those that don't know, I was off a year almost of all social media. Like I'd post here and there once every 6 months. But what you saw 3-4 years ago with Splash was like, it was real, but it was very like just business. Like I'm just this painter. Like I'm getting aggressive talking like this is just who Splash is. And now it's like, nah, like I'm in my studio right now. 90% of the time, there's two of my dogs here. I'm out going ice fishing and doing things and showing the world like a little bit more about us. And I think that's a testament to business owners, and not just business owners, because not everyone is going to own a business. There's a lot of people that are comfortable being the painter, being the foreman, being the lead, where they have no desire to do that. But showing their personality, there's one guy in New York that he doesn't ever want to own a business, but he's killing it on social media because he shows who he is as a person, not just the worker. And so I love that you're showing that your pictures in didn't you go to Amsterdam, I think you said?
Yeah, my wife and I just celebrated our 25th anniversary. Took a riverboat cruise and started in Amsterdam and went down the Rhine River. It was pretty awesome.
And that was beautiful. Those castles. I'm like, man, I can't wait. And we always tell ourselves when our kids graduate, we're going to leave for like 2 months. Not that I'm worrying it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. My kids are 18 and 20. They're out of high school and they're great boys, and they're still living at home, but they're super responsible, working a ton, and just given my wife and I were kind of entering this next phase of life and a little bit more freedom. And I love to travel. My wife loves to travel, so we're going to do as much of that as we possibly can. Helps me, a lot. I give them a lot of conversations with customers about travel, Europe, and all this kind of stuff, and that's fun. Like,
yeah.
I don't think they expect that out of their painter. They're like, "You just got back from Europe?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just got for like 2 weeks."
Yeah. Hey, it's like I said, it's a healthy sign of your business, and you're being personable. And I think right now, in any lines of work, especially with contractor work that are customer facing, like commercial work, no, not really so much, but in customer facing work, like these customers want to know that you're a human, not a robot, not just some person that just collect a paycheck. And it's good. So, all right, man. Hey, I love it. Much love to you. It's been fun. I hope I see you around. I know I got some other conversations I want to have. So maybe season 8 we'll have you on and dive down. Maybe even have your lead. I think I'd love to have someone that's been in there talk about how it is to lead for an owner who is very open to change but implements the system as they see needed. I think that's gonna be our next level talk because it's important. I'll admit, as a contractor, I thought I was good, but I was nowhere near as good as the other people out there. And it makes us want to strive. I don't want to open my business, but it makes me like, if I did, systems, rocket, all these things.
Yeah, Justin might be a fun guy for you to have on the podcast because he tells me all the time, "Nick, you're my favorite boss I've ever worked for." And actually, we got in a little bit last night. I was asked, "Well, why? What do you like about me?" That might be a fun conversation for you.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, send him my way. We'll have him on. Tell him it's unfiltered.
You'd like that.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to end this podcast. And again, you can find me, Splash, on social media at The Real Splash, because that's me. You can find Nick at Walls by Design. I know your DM's open. I know you're busy, but you do answer questions for people. So go to your page. I did see today, I had noticed prior, but you actually pin your reviews, some of your reviews to your Instagram page. I think that's very awesome. I'm going to cloak you with this to end it. You're the person that started allowing and showing people it's important, because there's a few guys I follow that I know follow you that have started to post their reviews on their reels, on their stories, on their hard posts, their stagnant posts. And it's like, I like that because it's showing that they're getting work. They're not just sitting back. And if you can ever have a customer mention your employee by name, that company's being ran well. And that's a lot of trust. So thank you so much, Nick. Have a great rest of the holiday week, and we'll chat with you later.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks.
See ya.